John Carson sat at his kitchen table, mechanically sipping black coffee. The house was quiet. Too quiet. It had been that way since his wife died 4 years ago. Only Olivia's occasional visits from college brought life back into these walls. The clock read 3:17 a.m. Sleep was a luxury John rarely enjoyed these days. 20 years in special operations had permanently altered his sleep patterns. Most nights he sat alone with his thoughts, memories, and regrets. His phone vibrated against the wooden table. Calls at this hour were never good news. "Carson," he answered, his voice steady. "Mr. Carson, this is campus security at Westfield University. I'm calling about your daughter, Olivia." John's hand tightened around the phone. "What happened?" "Sir, there's been an incident. Olivia is missing." John was already moving, pulling on boots with the phone pressed between his ear and shoulder. "Explain." Her roommate reported strange lights and sounds from their room around midnight. When she returned, Olivia was gone. Her belongings are still here, but she's nowhere on campus. "Any signs of forced entry?" "Security footage." "That's the strange part, sir. The cameras experienced interference at exactly that time. And there's something else. Campus police found unusual energy readings in her room. Nothing we've ever seen before." John froze. "I'll be there in 90 minutes. He ended the call and moved to his bedroom closet. Behind his regular clothes was a panel that slid aside, revealing a small arsenal. He pulled out a duffel bag, already packed for emergencies, and a metal case containing a handgun and credentials most civilians wouldn't recognize. As he loaded his truck, his phone rang again. The caller ID showed blocked. "Carson, this is Agent Frank Wilson, Department of Defense. We've been alerted to the situation with your daughter." John's muscles tensed. How did the DoD learn about a campus security incident so quickly? "Because it's not just a campus security incident, Mr. Carson. We detected energy signatures consistent with non-terrestrial technology. The world seemed to stop. You're saying aliens took my daughter. We can't confirm that yet, but I've been authorized to brief you given your particular background and clearance level. A car will arrive at your location in 5 minutes. Please be ready." The line went dead. John stared at the phone, memories flooding back. The classified missions, the things he'd seen, the things he'd done. The reason they called him the Ghost wasn't just his ability to appear and disappear without a trace. It was the trail of enemies who simply ceased to exist. He was the man governments called when they needed someone who could do the impossible. The man with the highest confirmed kill count in special operations history. The man whose name made hardened terrorists and warlords tremble. And now someone had taken his daughter. A black SUV pulled into his driveway. 2 men in suits stepped out, their posture and awareness marking them as military despite their civilian clothes. "Mr. Carson, we're here to escort you to headquarters." John nodded once and climbed into the vehicle, his duffel bag at his feet. As they drove, he stared out the window at the stars above. His mind was already calculating, planning, preparing. If someone from beyond Earth had indeed taken Olivia, they had made a catastrophic mistake. They didn't know who her father was. They couldn't possibly understand what they had just unleashed. Somewhere in the vastness of space, Olivia Carson lay unconscious in a sterile chamber, surrounded by beings studying her life signs with cold curiosity. They had selected her for her unique genetic markers, unaware that those markers came from the most dangerous human predator the galaxy would ever know. And he was coming for them. John sat silently in a windowless room at the Department of Defense facility. The walls were gray, the table metal. He had been in rooms like this before, but never on this side of the table. Agent Wilson entered with a slim folder and a tablet. A woman followed him, tall, confident, with calculating eyes that missed nothing. "This is Agent Laura Bennett," Wilson said. "She'll be your point of contact for this operation." "This isn't an operation yet," John replied coldly. "It's a briefing. Show me what you know about my daughter." Laura placed the tablet on the table, and swiped across the screen. Images appeared in the air above it, holographic projections showing Olivia's dorm room. Strange blue markings glowed on the walls and floor, visible only under specialized lighting. These energy signatures match 3 other incidents in the past year, Laura explained, all involving young adults with specific genetic markers. What markers? John asked. Genetic anomalies we first identified during Project Threshold in 2007. John's eyes narrowed. That project was terminated. Officially, yes. Laura's expression remained neutral. What wasn't terminated was monitoring of the subjects and their offspring. The realization hit John like a physical blow. You've been watching Olivia her entire life. We've been protecting her, Wilson corrected. Your service record made both of you persons of interest to certain non-terrestrial entities. John's hand clenched beneath the table. You knew this could happen. Neither agent denied it. What we didn't know, Laura continued, was when or where they would make a move. We had countermeasures in place, but their technology has evolved. John stood suddenly, making Wilson flinch. Laura didn't move. I want access to everything you have. Every file, every recording, every theory about who took her and where they went. That's classified beyond even your clearance level, Wilson began. Then unclassify it, John said, his voice deadly quiet, or I'll find her my way. The threat hung in the air. Everyone in the room knew what my way meant. The destruction John Carson had left behind during his career was legendary within certain circles. Laura studied him for a long moment. You should know that if these are the same entities we've tracked before, they're likely no longer in Earth's atmosphere. John absorbed this without visible reaction. You're saying my daughter is in space? Yes. Then that's where I'm going. Wilson laughed nervously. That's impossible. We don't have. You do, John interrupted. Area 57. The recovered craft from the 2019 incident. Both agents froze. How do you? Wilson started. Because I was there, John said simply. I led the team that recovered it, and I memorized the control systems before your scientists locked it away. Laura's expression changed subtly. Respect, maybe, or concern. Even if that craft were operational, which it isn't, this would be a suicide mission, she said. Not for me, John replied. I've done the impossible before. It's why they called me the Ghost. The name wasn't just for your stealth skills, Laura said quietly. It was for how you left nothing behind. Not even bodies. John didn't respond. His eyes were cold, focused. I'll need weapons, he said finally. And I'll need access to my old equipment. Laura nodded slowly. We've maintained your kit. Standard protocol for operators of your caliber. She gestured to the door. I can take you to the armory, and then to the craft. Wilson stepped forward. This isn't authorized. It is now, Laura cut him off. Because our options are to help him or try to stop him. She looked directly at John. And I don't think we can stop him. John picked up his duffel bag. No, he said quietly. You can't. John studied the alien craft with practiced eyes. Despite its otherworldly design, he recognized its purpose. A scout ship built for stealth and speed rather than combat. The recovered vessel sat in an enormous underground hangar, surrounded by scientists and military personnel. We've repaired the propulsion and life support systems, Laura explained, walking beside him. But the weapons remain offline. I won't need its weapons, John replied, patting the modified rifle slung across his back. The weapon looked like a standard military-issue rifle, but John had personally modified it with technology that wasn't supposed to exist. A scientist approached with a tablet. Mr. Carson, the navigation system shows the last coordinates the ship visited before its crash. We believe it's a rendezvous point. John examined the star map that appeared above the tablet. The coordinates showed a location just beyond Mars' orbit. How long to reach it? He asked. At maximum speed, 4 hours, the scientist replied. This craft uses some kind of space folding technology we don't fully understand. Laura handed John a small device. This tracker will allow us to monitor your position. If you find Olivia, activate it, and we'll send everything we have. John pocketed the device without comment. They both knew everything we have meant very little against an advanced alien civilization. There's something else you should know, Laura said, lowering her voice. We've identified the species responsible for the abductions. We call them the Xeraxians. She showed him images on her tablet. Tall, slender beings with 4 arms and skin that seemed to shimmer with bioluminescence. What do they want? John asked. They're collectors, Laura explained. They gather specimens from across the galaxy. But lately, they've shown specific interest in humans with certain genetic markers. Like Olivia. Yes, and like you. Laura met his eyes. Your DNA shows unusual adaptability, enhanced strength, reflexes, healing. The government has studied your blood work for years trying to replicate it. John's expression darkened. Is that why they took her? Because of me? It's likely, Laura admitted. We believe they're using genetic samples to create some kind of enhanced hybrid species. John checked his weapons one last time. How do I get inside this thing? A panel on the side of the craft slid open in response to his voice. The scientists looked at each other in surprise. It recognizes you, one whispered. John turned to Laura. If I'm not back in 48 hours with Olivia, send the coordinates to my old team. They'll know what to do. Laura nodded. There's a communication device on board. It should work across solar distances. I'll be monitoring personally. John climbed into the craft. The interior was cramped but ergonomically designed, with controls that seemed to anticipate human reach and grip. He settled into what appeared to be the pilot's seat. Good hunting, Ghost, Laura said from the entrance. The panel slid closed, sealing John inside. Lights activated around him, and a holographic display appeared, showing navigation and ship status in symbols he somehow understood. The craft hummed to life, rising silently from the hangar floor. Above, massive doors slid open, revealing the night sky. John placed his hands on 2 gel-like pads, and the ship responded to his thoughts. It shot upward, accelerating faster than any Earth technology could manage. Within minutes, the blue sky darkened to black, and stars surrounded him. As Earth shrank behind him, John's mind remained focused on a single purpose. The Xeraxians had made a fatal error. They had studied human biology, human genetics, perhaps even human technology. But they hadn't studied human history. They didn't know what a father would do to save his child. And they certainly didn't know what this particular father was capable of. The scout ship accelerated toward the coordinates, carrying the most dangerous predator Earth had ever produced straight to their doorstep. The scout ship dropped out of faster-than-light travel with a gentle shudder. John felt his stomach settle as normal physics reasserted themselves. The view screen showed a massive structure floating in space, not a planet or moon, but something constructed. It resembled a giant wheel with spokes connecting to a central hub. Bennett, are you seeing this? John asked, activating the communication link. Laura's voice came through clearly despite the vast distance. Yes. Our analysts are calling it a trading post or way station. Multiple species, neutral territory. John guided the ship closer, observing the dozens of vessels docked along the outer ring. None matched the design of his stolen craft. No sign of Xeraxian ships, he reported. They may have continued to their homeworld, Laura suggested, but this outpost might have information. These places usually have someone who tracks ship movements. John docked the scout ship at an empty berth. The airlock sealed with a hiss, and atmospheric readings appeared on his display. Breathable atmosphere, he noted. Slightly higher oxygen than Earth. Be careful, Laura warned. Our intelligence suggests most species there won't recognize humans. Use that to your advantage. John checked his weapons one last time before hiding them under a long coat he found in the ship's storage compartment. He secured a translator device to his collar, another piece of technology borrowed from previous alien encounters. The airlock opened to a busy corridor filled with beings of various shapes and sizes. Some walked on multiple legs, others floated above the ground. None paid him much attention as he stepped into the flow of traffic. Following signs he somehow understood, John made his way to what appeared to be a central information hub. A large gelatinous creature operated a complex terminal. "I seek information on Xeraxian vessels," John stated clearly. The creature's body rippled, translucent skin showing shifting colors. "Information has value. What do you offer in trade?" John placed a small piece of earth gold on the counter, part of his emergency kit. The creature absorbed the metal directly into its body. "Primitive but pure. Acceptable." Its appendage gestured to the screen. "Xeraxian collection vessel departed 17 cycles ago. Destination: Xyrax Prime." The screen displayed a star map with coordinates. John memorized them instantly. "Any unusual cargo?" he asked. "They registered biological specimens from Sol 3. That is your origin system, yes." The creature's body pulsed with what might have been curiosity. "Your species is rarely seen beyond your home planet. Were the specimens alive?" "Xeraxians only collect living samples." The creature rippled again. They seemed particularly satisfied with this acquisition. John's hands clenched at his sides. "How long to reach the Xyrax Prime?" "In your vessel, 3 planetary rotations." The creature leaned closer, but caution is advised. Xyrax Prime is not welcoming to unauthorized visitors. John turned to leave, but paused when the creature spoke again. "Curious. Your biological readings show elevated stress responses, yet controlled. Your species is usually more emotionally transparent." "I'm not a typical example," John replied. The creature's colors shifted to a deep blue. "Indeed. Your neural patterns resemble those of apex predators. Fascinating." John returned to his ship and set the new coordinates. As the vessel prepared for another jump, he received an incoming transmission. "John, our analysts decoded more of the ship's database." Laura's voice came through. "The Xeraxians aren't just collectors. They're genetic engineers. They modify species to serve specific purposes." "What would they want with Olivia?" John asked, though he already suspected the answer. "Her connection to you. Your genetic markers show combat efficiency beyond normal human parameters. In their hands, they could create soldiers," John finished. "Weapons." "Exactly. And based on these files, the modification process begins immediately after collection. We need to hurry." The ship hummed as it prepared for the jump. John checked the weapons he had brought from Earth one more time, ensuring each was ready. Somewhere ahead, Olivia was being held by beings who saw her as nothing more than genetic material. They had no idea what was coming for them. No idea that her father had spent decades becoming what many considered impossible, a human weapon more dangerous than anything they could engineer. The ship leaped forward, stars blurring around it. The scout ship emerged from faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Xeraxian system. John immediately activated the stealth systems, watching as the ship's exterior changed color to match the darkness of space. Ahead floated a massive planet with rings, Xyrax Prime. Multiple moons orbited it, each hosting structures that glowed with artificial light. Around the planet, a fleet of ships moved in precise patterns, clearly military in nature. "I've arrived," John whispered into the communicator. "Heavy defenses in place." Laura's voice came through with slight static. "Our intelligence suggests their primary research facility is on the 3rd moon. That's likely where they're holding Olivia." John guided the ship carefully through the orbital defenses, relying on both the vessel's stealth technology and his own training. Years of infiltrating heavily guarded facilities had given him an instinct for finding blind spots in security systems. He landed the scout ship in a remote area of the 3rd moon, nestled between tall alien structures that provided additional cover. After checking his weapons, he activated a personal stealth device, another piece of technology borrowed from a classified government project. The device bent light around him, not making him invisible, but rather hard to focus on. Combined with his natural stealth abilities, it would be enough. The Zyraxian facility stretched before him like a massive web of interconnected buildings. John moved silently along its outer wall, observing patrol patterns and security measures. Despite the aliens' advanced technology, their security followed predictable patterns, a weakness he could exploit. He located an air circulation vent large enough for a human to navigate. Within minutes, he was inside the complex, moving through maintenance tunnels designed for robotic systems. "I'm in," he whispered to Laura. "Any way to narrow down Olivia's location?" "The tracking implant we placed in her during childhood vaccination shows she's in the central laboratory section," Laura replied. "I'm sending the signal to your device now." John's wrist computer displayed a pulsing dot. He moved toward it, encountering few Zyraxians along the way. Most areas were maintained by automated systems rather than living beings. He reached an observation platform overlooking a vast laboratory. Below, dozens of transparent chambers held various life forms. John's enhanced vision scanned each one methodically until he found what he was looking for. Olivia. She floated unconscious in a glowing liquid, connected to machines that monitored and modified her body. Her skin showed traces of the same bioluminescence as the Zyraxians. John's hand tightened on his weapon, but he forced himself to remain calm. Emotion would only lead to mistakes. He identified the lab's security systems and power supply. With surgical precision, he planted small explosive devices at key junction points. When detonated, they would create a cascading failure, enough distraction to cover their escape without destroying the entire facility. John dropped silently to the laboratory floor, moving between workstations where Zyraxian scientists monitored their experiments. He reached Olivia's chamber and studied the control panel. "Laura, I need translation on these controls," he whispered, sending images through his communicator. "Working on it," she replied. "The left sequence should drain the tank. The right will disconnect her from the monitoring systems." John input the commands. The liquid in Olivia's chamber began to drain, and the numerous tubes connected to her body detached automatically. As the last of the fluid emptied, Olivia slumped forward against the glass. John opened the chamber and caught his daughter before she could fall. Her skin felt unnaturally warm, and the strange bioluminescent patterns glowed faintly beneath her skin. "I've got her," he reported, beginning extraction. Just then, alarms blared throughout the facility. A Zyraxian voice echoed through the laboratory in a language John couldn't understand, but the meaning was clear. They had been discovered. John triggered the explosive devices. The laboratory plunged into darkness as the power failed. In the confusion, he lifted Olivia into his arms and moved toward the exit route he had planned. "Stay with me, Olivia," he whispered to his unconscious daughter. "We're going home." John moved swiftly through the darkened corridors, carrying Olivia's limp form. Emergency lights cast an eerie blue glow that matched the strange patterns now visible beneath his daughter's skin. Behind them, Zyraxian voices shouted commands as security forces mobilized. "They've locked down all primary exits," Laura reported through the communicator. "You'll need to find another way out." John ducked into a maintenance shaft as a squad of armed Zyraxians rushed past. "Working on it," he whispered. Olivia stirred in his arms, her eyelids fluttering. A soft groan escaped her lips. "Olivia," John said quietly, "can you hear me?" Her eyes opened slowly, revealing pupils that now glowed with the same bioluminescence as her skin. She stared at him in confusion. "Dad, what happened to me?" Her voice sounded strange, carrying an odd harmonic quality. "I'll explain later. Can you walk? We need to move." Olivia nodded uncertainly. John set her down gently, keeping one arm around her shoulders for support. They continued through the maintenance tunnels, John consulting his wrist computer for the fastest route back to the scout ship. "Something's wrong," Olivia whispered suddenly, pressing her hands against her temples. I can hear things, feel things that aren't there. John glanced at her with concern. What kind of things? Thoughts. Not mine. Theirs. She pointed toward the wall, beyond which the Raxian forces were gathering. They're planning to cut us off at Junction 7. John stared at his daughter. How do you know that? I don't know. I just hear it. Olivia's eyes widened. Dad, what did they do to me? Before John could answer, Laura's voice came through the communicator. John, we've decoded more of their research files. The experiments were designed to activate dormant human telepathic abilities. They've been trying to weaponize human potential. That explains the genetic interest, John muttered. Can it be reversed? Unknown, Laura replied. But we have bigger problems. Their fleet has been alerted. Once you reach your ship, you'll have to fight your way out of the system. Olivia suddenly grabbed John's arm. There's another way, she said urgently. I can see it. In their minds. A transport gate. For emergencies. Where? John asked. Olivia closed her eyes, concentrating. 2 levels down. East quadrant. John made a quick decision. Laura, change of plans. We're heading for a transport gate. That technology is highly unstable, Laura warned. Our scientists haven't been able to replicate it safely. We don't have a choice, John replied as the sound of Xeraxian forces grew closer. They found an access shaft and descended 2 levels. Olivia moved with increasing confidence, sometimes turning down corridors before John's sensors detected approaching guards. They reached a circular chamber housing a large ring-shaped device. Energy pulsed around its circumference. That's it, Olivia said. It can send us directly to coordinates we choose. John approached the control panel cautiously. Can you operate it? Olivia stepped forward, her hands hovering over the alien controls. I shouldn't know how to do this, she whispered, but I do. Her fingers danced across the panel. The ring began to hum, the energy within it coalescing into a swirling portal. I've set it for Earth orbit, she said, near a satellite cluster where we can hide. The chamber door burst open. Xeraxian security forces poured in, weapons raised. At their center stood a taller being with elaborate markings, clearly a commander. The human specimens will not leave, the commander announced in accented English. You are too valuable to our evolution. John positioned himself between the aliens and Olivia. You made a mistake taking my daughter. No mistake, the commander replied. Her genetic potential is extraordinary, as is yours, Hunter Carson. John froze. They knew who he was. Your reputation reached us even across the stars. The commander continued. The perfect genetic donor for our warrior class. The portal behind them stabilized. Olivia tugged at John's arm. Dad, it's ready. We have to go now. John backed toward the portal, keeping his weapon trained on the Xeraxians. If you ever come near my daughter again, he said with deadly calm, I will end your entire species. The commander's bioluminescent patterns flashed with what might have been amusement. We will meet again, Ghost. John and Olivia stepped backward into the swirling energy. The last thing they saw was the commander's glowing eyes before the portal consumed them in blinding light. John and Olivia emerged from the portal into the cold vacuum of space. For a terrifying moment, they floated freely among Earth's satellites, the blue planet shining below them. Olivia gripped her father's arm, eyes wide with panic. But instead of the expected agony of explosive decompression, they found themselves surrounded by a thin bubble of energy, a protective field generated by the transport technology. The field won't last long, Olivia gasped, somehow knowing this information. Maybe 10 minutes. John tapped his communicator. Laura, do you read me? We're in Earth orbit. Need immediate extraction. Static crackled before Laura's voice broke through. John, how did you? Never mind. Sending a retrieval team to your coordinates now. Within minutes, a sleek black spacecraft approached, clearly of Earth manufacture but incorporating alien technology. It maneuvered alongside them and extended a docking tube. John and Olivia pushed themselves inside just as the protective field began to dissipate. Inside the craft, oxygen flooded their lungs. A team of people in uniforms John didn't recognize helped them to seats as the craft descended toward Earth. "Welcome back," said a gray-haired man who introduced himself as Director Allen. "Your escape has caused quite a stir across several star systems." John ignored the pleasantries. "My daughter needs medical attention." Director Allen nodded to a woman in a white coat who approached with scanning equipment. "Dr. Rivera is our foremost expert on xenobiology. She'll assess Olivia's condition." While the doctor examined Olivia, Director Allen pulled John aside. "The Xeraxians have sent diplomatic messages to our secret contact channels. They want her back." "Not happening," John said flatly. "Of course not," Allen agreed. "But you should know, they're not the only ones interested now. Word has spread about a human with activated telepathic abilities. Several other species have already reached out." "Reached out how?" John asked. "Earth doesn't have official contact with alien civilizations." Allen smiled thinly. "Officially, no. Unofficially, we've had a seat at the galactic table for almost a decade. Limited representation, but enough to keep informed." He glanced at Olivia. "Your daughter's existence changes our position considerably." Dr. Rivera approached with her findings. "The genetic modifications are stable," she reported. "The Xeraxians activated sections of her DNA that are dormant in most humans. The abilities seem to be growing stronger." "Can you reverse it?" John asked. Rivera shook her head. "Not without significant risk. These changes are fully integrated now." Olivia joined them, standing straighter and more confident than before. "I don't want it reversed," she said firmly. "I can help protect Earth with these abilities." John studied his daughter's face, the same determination he'd seen in her mother years ago. "This isn't your fight." "They made it my fight when they took me," Olivia replied. Her skin glowed faintly with emotion. "Besides, I can sense more than just thoughts now. I can see connections, strategies, possibilities." Laura Bennett entered the cabin as the craft descended through Earth's atmosphere. "We've received word from 3 different alien factions," she announced. "They're offering alliance against the Xeraxians in exchange for sharing what happened with Olivia." "Sharing." John's voice carried a dangerous edge. "Information only," Laura clarified. "They fear the Xeraxians' genetic experimentation program. If they succeed in creating telepathic soldiers, the power balance shifts dramatically." "So they want to use us as a counterweight," John said. Director Allen nodded. "Essentially, and it gives Earth leverage we desperately need." The craft landed at a hidden facility in the Nevada desert. As they disembarked, John noticed armed guards surrounding the perimeter, not protecting them, but containing them. Olivia touched his arm, her eyes knowing. "They're afraid of us," she whispered. "Especially you." John surveyed the facility with experienced eyes, automatically noting exit routes and security weaknesses. They should be. A delegation waited for them inside, military officials and scientists eager to debrief them. But John noticed something else too. Representatives from what appeared to be multiple countries, all watching Olivia with intense interest. "What now?" Olivia asked quietly. John placed a protective hand on her shoulder. "Now we decide our terms. The galaxy wanted to meet humanity's potential." His eyes hardened. "They're about to." The week that followed was a blur of tests, debriefings, and tense negotiations. John refused to leave Olivia's side, despite numerous attempts by various government agencies to separate them for specialized interviews. On the 8th day, they sat in a conference room deep within the Nevada facility. Across the table, representatives from 5 nations watched them warily. Director Allen presided at the head of the table. "The Xeraxian Supreme Commander has requested direct communication," Allen announced. "They're insisting on speaking with both of you." John exchanged a glance with Olivia. Her abilities had grown stronger each day. Now she could sense intentions as easily as thoughts. They're planning something, she whispered to her father. I can feel it. John nodded. Let's hear what they have to say. A holographic projection appeared above the table. The same Zyraxian commander they had encountered during their escape. Its bioluminescent patterns pulsed with controlled energy. Hunter Carson, the commander began. Your reputation was not exaggerated. No species has ever infiltrated our research facility and escaped. You took my daughter, John replied evenly. That was your mistake. The commander's head tilted slightly. Perhaps, or perhaps it was exactly as intended. Olivia leaned forward. What do you mean? Your genetic activation was only the first phase, the commander explained. The full process requires your return to complete the transformation. Not happening, John said flatly. The commander's patterns shifted to a deeper blue. Without completion, the changes will continue unpredictably. Eventually, they will overwhelm her human physiology. Dr. Rivera, who had been monitoring Olivia daily, looked alarmed. Is that true? The cellular division rate has been increasing. It can be stabilized, the commander stated, but only with our technology. John's expression remained impassive, but his mind raced through options. Olivia touched his hand gently. He's lying, Dad, she said quietly. At least partially. They want me back, but not to help me. They see me as the prototype for something bigger. The commander's patterns flickered. Your abilities grow impressively, young human. Enough games, John interrupted. What do you really want? The commander seemed to consider its options before responding. The Zyraxian collective has existed for millennia through careful genetic enhancement. But we've reached evolutionary limitations. Human DNA contains potential we've never encountered. So you want to use us as breeding stock, John said bluntly. We offer partnership, the commander countered. Genetic exchange beneficial to both species. Your daughter represents the first successful human-Zyraxian hybrid compatibility. And if we refuse? John asked, though he already knew the answer. Then we take what we need by force. The commander's voice hardened. Our fleet approaches Earth now. Director Allen paled. Our defensive systems aren't ready for full-scale invasion. John stood slowly, his movement drawing all eyes in the room. You don't understand what you're doing, he told the commander. Humans don't respond well to threats. Your primitive weapons cannot harm our fleet, the commander replied dismissively. John smiled, a cold expression that made even the human officials shift uncomfortably. I'm not talking about weapons. I'm talking about me. He looked at Olivia, who nodded slightly. They had discussed contingency plans extensively. Here are our terms, John continued. You will provide the technology to stabilize Olivia's condition. You will withdraw your fleet, and you will register Earth as a protected planet under the Galactic Accords. The commander's patterns flashed with what might have been amusement. And why would we agree to these terms? Because I'm sending you my coordinates, John replied. And if your fleet comes within firing range of Earth, I will personally board your command ship and show you why I earned the name Ghost. A tense silence followed. You cannot reach us, the commander finally said, though with less certainty. Olivia stepped forward. I can get him there. And now I can sense your fears, Commander. You know exactly what he's capable of. The commander's patterns dimmed momentarily, a sign of distress. The collective will consider your terms. After the transmission ended, Director Allen stared at John. You were bluffing, right? John checked his weapons with practiced efficiency. No. 3 days later, a small Zyraxian vessel landed outside the facility. It carried the stabilization technology and formal documentation recognizing Earth as a protected world. The Zyraxian fleet retreated beyond the solar system. That evening, John and Olivia stood outside, looking up at the stars. They'll be back someday, Olivia said softly. Yes, John agreed. But by then, humanity will be ready. Olivia's skin glowed gently in the darkness. I'm still changing, Dad. Not just physically. I see things differently now. John put his arm around her shoulders. "You'll always be my daughter. And you'll always be the most dangerous human in the galaxy," she replied with a small smile. Above them, the stars glittered with new meaning, no longer distant points of light, but doorways to worlds that now knew the name Carson and what it meant to provoke Earth's deadliest protector.